The system showed he'd clocked in at 10:58 p.m., but that was impossible. Brian died 2 years ago in an accident on the factory floor. So who was wearing his badge? And why did they want everyone to think he was still here? I've been a line supervisor in Dayton for over 20 years. Everything in our plant ties back to your badge. You swipe at the gate, swipe at the terminal, and your name pops green on my grid. It tells me who's late, who forgot their ID again, and who needs a replacement shift. It's routine, and routine is safety. It was April 2021, just another Tuesday night shift. We had a skeleton crew scheduled, maybe 30 guys total, spread across 2 lines. Around 10:58 p.m., one of the monitors in the office dinged. Another employee had clocked in. The name on the log made me stop. Brian D. I froze with my coffee halfway to my mouth. Brian D. had been gone for 2 years. The press on line 6 took him. An accident back in 2019. I was there that night. I remember the panic, the sirens, the way everyone gathered in the break room afterward, nobody saying much. His locker still had a note taped inside from a joke we pulled on him. Nobody ever touched it. Losing Brian left a hole in the place you could feel. And yet, the system said he'd clocked in at 10:58. At first, I thought maybe someone had reused his badge number by mistake, some admin error. But I checked the archive. Brian's badge had been deactivated right after the accident. All his belongings, including his badge, had been handed over to his family. It shouldn't have scanned. And yet, there it was. I pulled the camera feed for the employee entrance. Grainy footage, but clear enough to see a man swipe a badge and walk in. He was wearing our standard uniform, dark coveralls, work boots, cap pulled low. From the angle, I couldn't make out his face, but the posture, the walk, it was familiar. My gut twisted. I left the office and went out onto the floor. Both lines were running fine, guys at their stations, everything normal. I counted heads. Everyone scheduled was there. No extra bodies. Whoever had scanned in wasn't standing at a machine. I radioed security. We've got a phantom clock in. Name's Brian D. There was a pause. Then, John, we saw it too. Someone's in the building. The night shift runs lean, and we all know each other. An unfamiliar face stands out. I walked the floor, scanning every face. No Brian, no mystery worker. Just the same tired guys I'd seen 100 times. That's when security called back. North stairwell cam picked him up, headed upstairs towards storage. I grabbed one of the maintenance leads, a solid guy named Tom, and we went up. The second floor of the factory is mostly unused storage. Racks of old parts, obsolete molds, pallets of paperwork no one wants to throw out. It's quiet up there, just the noises of the building itself. We walked the aisles. Nothing. Then my radio crackled again. He's on the west catwalk, heading toward the exit. We rushed over. From below, I caught a glimpse. Dark coveralls, cap, slow pace, like he belonged there. Tom shouted, "Hey!" The man didn't turn. He just kept walking toward the delivery bay. Security intercepted him at the delivery gate. 2 guards stepped in front, hands out. "Badge," one said. The man stopped. For the first time, he looked around. He slowly reached into his pocket and pulled out a worn plastic badge. Brian's badge. One guard took it, looked at it, then at me as I caught up. My stomach dropped. It was Brian's ID. Same photo, same name. I finally saw the man's face when he lifted his head. It was Kevin. one of Brian's closest friends from the floor. Kevin had left the factory weeks after Brian was gone, said he couldn't stand the place without him. I hadn't seen him in over a year. "Kevin," I said. He blinked at me, like I was the stranger. "He's still here," he murmured. His voice was raw. "You don't understand. Brian's still here." One guard took a half step forward. "Sir, you need to come with us." Kevin shook his head. "I clocked him in. I had to. If his name's on the log, it means he's not gone. Not really." The words chilled me more than seeing him with the badge. The guards gently but firmly took his arms. He didn't fight, just kept staring past us, like maybe Brian was standing somewhere behind me. The police came. Kevin didn't resist. They found no weapon on him, nothing dangerous. Just Brian's old badge and a small bundle of personal things in his pocket. A folded photo of the two of them at a company picnic. A set of Brian's keys he must have kept after the accident. Later, they told me Kevin had broken into the HR office weeks earlier and dug through old storage to find the badge. He'd been trying to swipe it in at different doors, waiting for a chance to get inside. When they interviewed him, he said he couldn't accept that Brian was gone, that the factory felt empty, wrong without him, that he just wanted one night where Brian's name lit up the system again. Proof he wasn't forgotten. It wasn't malice, it wasn't sabotage. It was brief turned sideways into something eerie and unsettling. The system log shows Brian D. clocked in at 10:58, April 14, 2021, and right below it, access denied when Kevin tried to swipe out with the same badge hours later. I've seen a lot of strange things in factories, accidents, breakdowns, even pranks. But nothing rattled me like seeing Brian's name pop up on that log 2 years after he was gone. Kevin's arrest made the papers for a day, buried on page 6. Most people saw it as a sad footnote, nothing more. But for those of us who worked with Brian, it cut deeper. We all carried his absence in different ways. Kevin just carried it the wrong way, until it bent him. I still have the printout from that night, folded and worn, tucked in the back of my locker. Brian D., 10:58 p.m. Sometimes I look at it and wonder if Kevin was right in a way. Maybe Brian really is still here, in the hum of the machines and the way the shift flows. But I also know this: routine is supposed to be solid, reliable. That night reminded me how fragile it really is, and how grief can twist even the most ordinary systems into something haunting. Now, every time I hear the beep of the scanner, I look at the monitor, just to make sure the name that pops up belongs to someone who's still alive. She stood alone in the parking garage at 2 a.m., pacing back and forth under a single cone of light. When I asked if she was okay, she stopped moving and stared at me with eyes that looked like glass. The next night, she was there again, in the exact same spot. My name is Jasmine. Most people just call me Jazz. I'm 27, a nurse in New Orleans. By the 3rd month of night shifts, I thought I had the rhythm down. Finish last rounds, sign off meds, badge out, elevator, garage, car, home, shower, sleep. That particular week, I was working at Oxnard, leaving after 12 hours that had stretched into 13. My tote bag was heavy. My mask left red lines on my cheeks, and my body moved like it had its own schedule. The hospital garage sits across the access road. a concrete box with buzzing fluorescent tubes and stairwell doors that slam like they're mad at you. On good nights, I like the echo. You can hear your own steps and know if you're alone. That night, I just wanted silence and my bed. I parked on 3B, same row I always use. Habit is half survival. My flip-flops slapped too loud as I walked toward the exit ramp, keys wedged between my fingers the way my mom taught me. I didn't hear her arrive, but suddenly I saw a girl. She was under a cone of light near the ramp mouth, moving back and forth in a line like she was tracing the seam of the concrete. Thin hoodie zipped halfway despite the heat. Sleeves pulled over her hands. Her ponytail was messy, like she tied it in a hurry and forgot about it. She was talking to herself, not loud, but like a private mantra. I froze halfway down the row. Training pulled me two ways at once. Nurses don't ignore someone crying, but women don't walk toward strangers alone in garages. I hesitated, then called out, "Hey, you okay?" She stopped, like someone had unplugged her, just halted mid-step. Slowly, she lifted her face toward me. Her eyes looked too bright in that light. Her mouth wasn't moving, but it looked like it wanted to. "Security's right there," I said, pointing at the booth by the exit. She didn't answer. She turned and ran straight into the stairwell. The heavy door slammed, echoing up the concrete. I went to the door, pulled it open, and leaned in. No footsteps, no breathing, just emptiness. At the booth, the guard, Alton, I think, though I always mix it up, saw me hovering. "Something wrong, ma'am?" "There was a girl," I said, pacing, crying. "She just ran into the stairwell." He toggled his monitor, radioed another guard. "Unit 2, stairwell check 3B. Exit to me. Stay by your car." The second guard, older, alert, took the stairs loud on purpose. His steps echoed, then faded. 10 minutes later, he returned, shaking his head. "No one there, no doors propped." "She was right there," I said again. "We'll keep a lookout," the first guard told me, in that tone you use when you want to calm someone without promising anything. I drove home unsettled, convincing myself it was a lost patient's daughter or someone waiting for a ride. The world is full of simple explanations. The next night, I worked late again. Same garage, same elevator hitch, same hot air pressing against me as I stepped out on 3B. She was there. Same spot, same hoodie, same ponytail, same sleeves pulled over her hands, same pacing. 4 steps, turn, 4 back. This time, she stopped sooner, lifted her face toward me like she'd been expecting me. My hand twitched toward my phone, then toward my keys, then back again. I didn't call out. My feet chose for me. I walked to my car. She didn't move, just watched me. Her eyes caught the light in a way that made them look like glass. Perhaps because of the tears. My hand shook so badly I fumbled the unlock button. The chirp echoed way too loud in the garage. I slid into the car, pulled the lock down manually, and started the engine. When I looked back through the rear window, she was still standing there, sleeves over her hands, staring. I told my charge nurse the next day. He radioed security to monitor the exit at shift change. They promised to check. That evening, I stalled after work so I could leave with a crowd. Respiratory peeled off toward their cars. Residents chattered about labs. Everyone splitting into smaller streams. I walked with them, feeling safer in numbers. The ramp mouth was empty. Empty should have felt better. It didn't. A few hours later, a police officer came to the unit office to take a statement. He had a notebook, pen, calm face. Asked what time, what she looked like, what she said. I admitted I couldn't make out the words. He asked if she approached me. I said no. Vehicle? Didn't see one. He said they'd check footage. When they called me down to view it, the contradiction set in. The camera showed me walking across the garage, the guard looking up, the stairwell door bouncing shut, but the space where she had paced was empty. The second night's tape jumped once, just a tiny skip, then showed me hurrying to my car. No hoodie, no pacing, nothing. The officer didn't call it a glitch, and I respected him for that. He just said, nothing visible at the time you described. After that, I started parking on level 5, right under the security camera. I saved the escort number. Sometimes, Alton walked me out, telling stories about his twins who never slept at the same time. Sometimes, a female guard with a tight bun walked with me, eyes locked on the stairwell door as we passed. Both made it easier. Not easy. The weird part is how small echoes became weighted. A laundry cart squeak sounded like pacing. A resident in a hoodie jogging across the deck made me flinch. Even my own steps, when the garage was empty, seemed to mimic her rhythm. 4 paws, 4 back. 2 Sundays later, I dragged my friend Danny, day shift, still believes in naps, out there to see. We stood under the light by the ramp. She pointed at the stairwell door and said, "Those hydraulics are stiff. She must have pushed hard to make it slam." We waited. Nothing happened. Eventually, we left, both pretending the silence meant something reassuring. The police never called back with an update. No missing person matched. The garage stayed what it always was, a concrete box that hums and decides who it wants to let you see. I heard the door handle jiggling at 11 p.m. Someone was testing the lock, trying different angles. When security swept the building, they found something that made my blood run cold. A folded newspaper wedged in the doorframe, keeping it from locking. He wasn't just passing through, he was planning to come back. I worked nights cleaning the 3rd floor of an office building in downtown Portland. That December, rain had been hammering the city. The kind that slicks sidewalks until they shine like black glass under the street lamps. The kind that makes every bus smell like wet wool. My shift runs from 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. By then, the building is dead quiet. Elevators parked, motion lights buzzing, vents humming. The lemon disinfectant from my cart mixes with burnt coffee from the break rooms and clings to my hoodie. That smell follows me home on the bus. People sit 1 seat over when they catch it. I usually park the cart in the closet, start at the marketing office, vacuum straight rows, empty bins with receipts and granola bar wrappers, wipe glass and keyboards, disinfect touch points. Bathrooms last, same order every night. The 3rd floor is 2 long halls forming a rectangle. At the ends of each hall are staff-only stairwell doors, the kind that should be bolted after hours. That Tuesday, I was tired, but holding it together. Around 11, I was emptying bins by the north stair. The door creaked. Not open, just enough for the hinge to groan. Then the handle jiggled. I froze. The sound was wrong. It wasn't air pressure or pipe settling. That was a hand. I set the bin down and pressed myself against the wall, out of sight of the wired glass. The handle jerked again, slower now, like whoever was there was testing different angles. Then footsteps on the concrete stairwell, going up. I pulled my phone and called security. 3rd floor, north stair door. Someone's testing the handle right now. They told me to stay on the line. I heard another guard's boots through the radio. Then Luis, the guard I knew, answering from the south stair. My phone picked up his voice a second before my ears did in real space. North stair, 3rd floor. He knocked once. Security, identify yourself. Silence. He pressed the bar from our side. The door opened into the stairwell. Just concrete, rain smell, echoes, empty. He let it close. Then I heard his boots on the stairs, heading up. I stayed in suite 301 with the lights off, door locked, phone in my hand. Through the wall, I heard footsteps moving higher. Minutes later, the radio crackled. Subject on 5, tried a door. By the time we reached the hall, no one visible. Cameras caught him at the landing, hood up, never showing his face, then gone again into the stairwell. I came back jumpy, finished the 2nd floor faster than ever, then walked a perimeter on 3 before starting. That's when I saw the north stair door wasn't sitting flush. Down at the hinge, a folded newspaper was wedged into the jamb, keeping the latch from catching. The paper was damp, date fresh. He'd propped it. I didn't touch it. I called Luis. He came with another guard, crouched, pulled it out with 2 fingers, slid it into a plastic bag. He didn't smile when he said, "Good catch." They swept. Cameras showed the alley exit door swing open for a second, then close again. No figure. Upstairs, a grainy frame caught just the back of a head slipping past. The rest looked like an empty building behaving itself. Building management sent an email to tenants about tailgating awareness and stairwell security. It had bullet points and clip art. My name was an imminent course. My job is to make it look like nothing happened. But what stuck wasn't an image. I never saw his face. What stuck was the sound. The handle jiggling in quick testing pulls. And that folded newspaper in the frame, telling me he wasn't improvising. He was planning to come back. Fear at night isn't screaming. It's small choices you make before something happens. It's locking a door behind you, even if you're only inside for 5 minutes. It's carrying a flashlight you may never need, just for the feel of it in your pocket. And if I ever hear that handle jiggling again, I'll do what I did. Call, step into 301, and shut the door. That's the kind of brave I can afford past midnight on a rainy Portland night.
Some people say trust your gut when something feels off. I ignored mine. Now I know that the janitor mopping floors beside me every night was hiding something far more sinister than I could have ever imagined. What I found in the basement still haunts me to this day. I've worked as a night security guard for a few years now. It's not a bad gig, easy money for the most part, and the quiet is something I've grown to appreciate. After all, in this job, a peaceful night means a successful night. The building I'm stationed at is a corporate office downtown. It's one of those glass towers that looks impressive during the day, but feels almost haunted when it's empty at night. Most nights, I'm the only one here. I sit in the security office, monitor the cameras, patrol the hallways a couple of times, and lock up the place. It's monotonous, but I prefer it that way. The quiet hum of the building systems and the soft glow of the security monitors all became routine. Then there's Martin. He's the janitor on the same shift as me, and from the moment I met him, something about him didn't sit right. He's an older guy, probably in his late 50s or early 60s, with thinning gray hair and a way of moving that's too quiet. I don't know if it's his hunched posture or the way he always seems to appear without making a sound, but I can never shake the feeling that he's watching me, even when I don't see him. At first, it was just a gut feeling, nothing I could put my finger on. He was polite enough, keeping to himself and occasionally nodding if we passed each other in the hallways. But over time, the strange things started to add up. One night, I was doing my usual rounds, checking the locks and walking the hallways, when I saw him standing in one of the empty offices on the 16th floor. The lights were off, but the glow from the hallway illuminated him just enough. He wasn't cleaning. He was just standing there, staring out the window. His reflection in the glass looked wrong, distorted somehow. I stood there for a moment, unsure of whether to say something. It felt like I was intruding, even though I was technically the one supposed to be there. Finally, I cleared my throat. "Everything okay, Martin?" I asked, trying to sound casual. He didn't turn around. He completely ignored me. He just kept staring out the window. I waited a few more seconds before walking away, the unease settling deep in my gut. That was the first time I felt like something was seriously off with him. But it was just the beginning. Over the next few weeks, I started noticing other things. Small things at first, but enough to raise alarm bells in the back of my mind. For one, Martin would always be in places where he had no reason to be. The janitorial staff had their designated areas, but I'd find him wandering the upper floors at odd hours, sometimes just standing in the middle of a hallway as if waiting for something. The worst part? He would always seem to vanish the moment I turned the corner. I'd see him in the reflection of the glass doors, but by the time I reached that spot, he was gone. I tried telling myself I was being paranoid. It's easy for the mind to play tricks when you're alone at night in a massive empty building. But then things started happening that I couldn't explain. It started with the cameras. One night, I was watching the security monitors when I noticed static on one of the feeds. That's not unusual. The cameras glitch from time to time. But this was different. The static would flicker for a second, and then Martin would appear on the screen, standing perfectly still in a hallway I knew I had just checked. He wouldn't move, wouldn't clean. He'd just stand there, staring at something off camera. Then, just as suddenly, the feed would cut out. When it came back, he'd be gone. At first, I chalked it up to a technical error, but it kept happening. Always the same camera. Always the same unsettling image of him standing in the middle of the hallway, staring into nothingness. And then there were the items. Things started going missing from my desk. A pen here, a key card there. I thought maybe I was just being careless, until I found them in strange places. An office supply closet that hadn't been used in months? Or a stairwell nobody ever used? How were they getting there? And why? The night everything changed, I had decided to confront Martin. I couldn't shake the feeling that he was somehow involved in the strange happenings around the building. I didn't know if he was messing with me, trying to scare me, or if something darker was going on. But I needed answers. It was a little past 2 a.m. when I saw him again on the cameras. He was on the lower level, near the basement, a place he never had any reason to go. I watched as he stood outside one of the maintenance rooms, his hand resting on the door. This time, I wasn't going to just watch. I grabbed my flashlight and headed downstairs, moving as quickly and quietly as I could.
The lower level was colder than the rest of the building. The air was thick with the hum of the HVAC system. My footsteps echoed off the concrete walls, amplifying the growing sense of dread in my chest. When I reached the maintenance room, the door was slightly ajar, and Martin was nowhere to be seen. I hesitated for a second before pushing it open. Inside, the room was filled with cleaning supplies, tools, and spare parts for the building systems. But something felt wrong, off somehow. I shined my flashlight around, the beam cutting through the dimly lit space. That's when I saw it. A door. Not a regular door. This one was hidden behind a large metal shelving unit, almost as if someone had intentionally tried to conceal it. My heart raced as I moved the shelf aside, revealing the door fully. There was no handle, just a small keyhole and a rusted plaque that read, "Authorized personnel only." I knew I shouldn't go in. Every instinct told me to turn back, to leave this room and forget I had ever seen it. But my curiosity and fear drove me forward. I found a key on one of the shelves that fit the lock. With a deep breath, I turned it. The door creaked open, revealing a narrow stairwell that led down into darkness. I don't know what possessed me to go down those stairs. Maybe it was a need to prove to myself that I wasn't losing my mind, that there was a logical explanation for everything that had been happening. Or maybe it was the realization that I couldn't live with the uncertainty anymore. The stairs seemed to go on forever. The air grew colder and heavier with each step. The smell hit me first, musty, damp, and something else, something metallic. My flashlight flickered as I reached the bottom, casting long, distorted shadows against the cracked cement walls. At the end of the hallway was another door. This one even older, its wood warped and splintering with age. I hesitated, my hand trembling as I reached for the handle. The cold metal sent a shiver up my arm. With a sense of impending dread, I pushed it open. What I saw inside will haunt me for the rest of my life. The room was small, no bigger than a storage closet, but it was filled with items. Boxes and shelves overflowing with photographs, clothing, and personal effects. And then there were the more disturbing things. Tufts of hair, blood-stained rags, and bones. I stumbled backward, barely able to comprehend what I was seeing. In the center of the room was a small, rusted cot. On it lay a faded photograph of a family. Martin's family. Suddenly, the door behind me slammed shut. I spun around, my flashlight beam shaking as I frantically searched for a way out. That's when I saw him. Martin. He was standing in the doorway, his expression calm, his eyes glinting in the dim light. He didn't say a word. He didn't need to. The look in his eyes told me everything I needed to know. He had been waiting for this moment. "You shouldn't have come down here," he said softly, his voice barely above a whisper. I took a step back, my heart racing, my mind scrambling for a way out. "What is this place?" I asked, my voice shaking. Martin smiled, a slow, sinister smile that sent chills down my spine. "This," he said, gesturing to the room around him, "this is where I keep the things I care about." I felt bile rise in my throat as I realized what he meant. This wasn't just a storage room. It was a shrine, a tomb. I didn't wait for him to make a move. I bolted toward the door, pushing past him with all the strength I could muster. He reached out, trying to grab me, but I managed to break free. I ran up the stairs, 2 at a time. I could hear him behind me, his footsteps heavy and deliberate. But I didn't look back. I burst through the door at the top of the stairs, slamming it shut behind me. My hands shook as I fumbled with the lock. I didn't stop running until I was back in the security office, slamming the door and locking it behind me. I called the police, my fingers trembling as I dialed, barely able to explain what had happened. The police arrived within minutes, but when they searched the building, Martin was gone. The room in the basement was exactly as I had left it, but there was no sign of him. They found evidence, enough to launch a full investigation, but to this day, they've never found him. I quit the job the next morning. It's been months since that night, but I still can't shake the feeling that he's out there, watching, waiting. And sometimes, late at night, I swear I can hear the sound of his footsteps echoing down the empty hallways, just like before. Only now, I'm not there to stop him.
When I first took the night shift at the office, I wasn't thrilled, but the extra pay was too good to pass up. My department was on a deadline for a huge project, and someone needed to stay late to monitor progress and make sure everything was on track. I volunteered, figuring it would be just a few quiet hours of catching up on work without distractions. The office building itself was your typical corporate setup. Rows of cubicles, a break room with a coffee machine that never worked right, and fluorescent lights that buzzed just enough to drive you crazy. During the day, the place was bustling with people. The hum of phones ringing and keyboards clacking filled the air. But at night, when everyone else had gone home, it felt different. There's something unsettling about an empty office at night. The rows of cubicles stretch out like a maze. The dim emergency lighting cast strange shadows. I could hear every little sound. The creak of the building settling, the faint hum of the air conditioning. Even my own breathing seemed too loud. At first, the quiet was a relief. I liked the solitude, the peace of it all. But after a few nights, the peace started to feel more like isolation. And then, strange things began to happen. One night, I was working on a report when I heard a faint rustling sound coming from across the room. I looked up, expecting to see one of the cleaning crew, but the office was empty. I shrugged it off, figuring it was just some building system kicking in. But the sound kept coming. Papers shuffling, chairs creaking, as if someone was moving around just out of sight. It was subtle, almost too subtle to notice at first. But once I heard it, I couldn't unhear it. I stood up and walked around the office, checking the cubicles, but there was no one there. The building was old, I reminded myself. Buildings make noises, that's all it was. But then, things started to get weirder. The next night, I came back from a break to find the papers on my desk scattered across the floor. At first, I thought maybe I had knocked them off without realizing it. But as I bent down to pick them up, I noticed something strange. The papers weren't just scattered, they were arranged, spread out in a way that seemed deliberate. I felt a chill creep down my spine. I was the only one in the office, wasn't I? I checked the security system. All the doors were locked, and no one had come in or out since I arrived. I laughed it off, telling myself I was just being paranoid.
but I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone. That's when the footsteps started. It was late, probably close to midnight. I was working on some spreadsheets, the glow of my monitor the only light in the office. I was deep into my work when I heard it. Footsteps, echoing down the hallway just outside the cubicles. I froze, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. The sound was unmistakable. Someone was walking down the hallway toward me. I strained to listen, trying to figure out who it could be. Maybe someone from the cleaning crew had arrived late, or maybe another employee had decided to pull an all-nighter.
But no matter how hard I listened, I couldn't hear any doors opening or closing. No rustling of cleaning supplies, just those footsteps. I stood up, my chair creaking as I pushed it back. "Hello?" I called out, my voice sounding too loud in the empty office. No response. I stepped out of my cubicle, peeking around the corner into the hallway. It was empty. The footsteps had stopped. My heart was racing now, and I could feel a cold sweat forming on the back of my neck. I tried to tell myself it was just my imagination, that I was hearing things because I was tired. But deep down, I knew something was wrong. I went back to my desk, but I couldn't focus. Every little sound set my nerves on edge. The hum of the air conditioning, the soft clicking of the clock. I kept glancing over my shoulder, expecting to see someone standing there, watching me. But no one was there. A few nights later, the situation reached a new level. I was sitting at my desk, finishing up a report, when I saw something out of the corner of my eye. A shadow, moving across the wall behind me. It was Quip, just a flicker, but it was enough to make me turn around. There was nothing there. I turned back to my computer, tried to focus, but the shadow kept appearing just at the edge of my vision. It was like someone was standing behind me. You know that indistinguishable feeling that there's a presence behind you? But every time I turned to look, the room was empty. The breaking point was when I caught a glimpse of something in my monitor. It was a reflection just behind me. In the dim light of the office, I saw the outline of a figure. I spun around, my breath catching in my throat. But there was no one there. The office was empty, as it always was. But the reflection had been real. I knew it was. That's when I started to panic. I called security, asking them to check the cameras, but they found nothing. No one had entered or left the building all night. I was alone. At least, I was supposed to be. After that night, I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone. Every time I came in for my shift, I felt eyes on me, even though I was the only one there. I started hearing voices, faint whispers, just on the edge of hearing. I'd be sitting at my desk, and I'd hear my name, like someone was calling me from down the hall. But when I went to check, there was never anyone there. The footsteps became more frequent too. I'd hear them almost every night, walking up and down the hallways, sometimes stopping just outside my cubicle. I'd sit there, frozen, waiting for them to move on, but they wouldn't. They'd just stop, and I'd feel the overwhelming sense that someone was standing there just on the other side of the wall, waiting for me to move. One night, after a particularly unsettling encounter where I'd seen a shadow pass by the window even though I was on the 12th floor, I decided I needed to get to the bottom of this. I started asking around, trying to find out if anyone else had experienced anything in the building. That's when I learned about the accident. Years ago, before I started working there, an employee had died in the building. She had been working late one night, just like me, when she had a heart attack. No one found her until the next morning when the cleaning crew came in. She had been lying in her cubicle, her face pale and her eyes wide open, staring at the ceiling. The story sent chills down my spine. Could it be her? Was she the one haunting the office, unable to move on? I tried to brush it off as an old office legend, just a story meant to spook the night shift workers. But deep down, I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to it than that. The footsteps, the shadows, the whispers, they all started after I had taken the night shift, and they were getting worse. One night, I was finishing up my work when I felt it again, that cold presence, that feeling of being watched. I stood up and looked around the empty office. It was quiet, too quiet. Then I heard it, a soft voice whispering my name. I turned toward the sound. The lights flickered, and for a split second, I saw her. A figure standing at the far end of the office, just beyond the glow of my desk lamp. She was pale, her eyes wide and vacant, her hair hanging limp around her face. I froze, unable to move, unable to breathe. She took a step forward, her feet making no sound on the carpeted floor. The lights flickered again, and she was gone. I grabbed my things and ran out of the office, not bothering to turn off my computer or lock up. I didn't care. I just needed to get out. I never went back to the night shift after that. I told my boss I couldn't do it anymore, and I didn't give him a reason. I didn't need to. The office is still there, of course. People still work late shifts. But no one ever talks about the strange things that happen after dark. The cleaning crew have their own stories. Whispers of shadows moving in the hallways, of footsteps that shouldn't be there. But no one ever stays late alone anymore. As for me, I've moved on. I got a new job in a new building, and I don't work nights anymore. But I'll never forget that face, those empty, staring eyes. And I know that she's still there, waiting.
I've been working the night shift at this warehouse for about 6 months. Honestly, it's not a bad job. Boring, yes, but not bad. I come in around 10 p.m., clock in, and spend the next 8 hours restocking shelves, organizing inventory, and preparing shipments. The warehouse is massive, filled with rows upon rows of towering shelves that stretch far into the distance. And at night, it's just me and the quiet. I'm not sure when it started. At first, I figured I was just tired. Working night shifts does that to you. Your mind plays tricks on you in the dark, especially in a place as big and empty as this. But lately, I've been hearing things. Little noises, footsteps, the soft creak of metal, and a faint scratching sound, like something being dragged across the floor. I tried to brush it off, thinking it must be rats or pigeons. But something about the way those sounds echoed through the warehouse, bouncing off the concrete floors and the towering shelves, felt off. Like someone was in here with me. But that's impossible. I'm the only one working the night shift. At least, that's what I thought. The first time I really noticed something strange, it was a Thursday night a few weeks ago. I was restocking one of the back aisles, the kind that doesn't get much foot traffic even during the day. I had a pallet of boxes to unload and was deep into the task when I heard it. A faint clatter, like something had fallen over. I paused. The sound echoed through the warehouse. For a moment, I stood there, listening. Nothing. I shook my head, figuring it was just something that had shifted on the shelves. But then, I heard it again, this time closer. I grabbed my flashlight and peered down the aisle. Everything seemed normal. The shelves were in place, the boxes stacked where I'd left them. I stood there for a moment, straining to hear anything else. But there was only silence. I shrugged it off, trying to convince myself that I was being paranoid. It was just the building settling. That's what I told myself. Until the following night. I was organizing inventory near the back of the warehouse, the farthest point from the loading dock. The lights were always dimmer back there, and the air felt cooler, almost like the temperature dropped a few degrees the further back you went. It was probably just a quirk of the building, but it always made me feel uneasy. I was about halfway through my shift when I saw it. A shadow. It darted between the rows of shelves. My hand gripped the box cutter a little tighter as my eyes scanned the aisles. "Hello?" I called out, my voice echoing in the silence. No response. I stood there waiting for the shadow to reappear, but nothing happened. I took a deep breath and moved closer to where I'd seen it, shining my flashlight down the aisle. But there was nothing. Just row after row of boxes and shelves, all neatly organized. I tried to laugh it off. Maybe I was just tired. It wouldn't be the first time my mind played tricks on me during a long shift. But something about the way that shadow moved didn't feel like a trick. Still, I pushed the thought aside and kept working. But I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone. The following week, the noises started getting worse. It wasn't just random clattering or the hum of the building anymore. I started hearing footsteps. Clear, unmistakable footsteps. It always happened around the same time, sometime after midnight. I'd be working, minding my own business, when I'd hear them. Footsteps echoing through the warehouse. Sometimes they seemed far away, but other times they sounded like they were coming from the next aisle over. I'd drop whatever I was doing and rush over, but no one was ever there. It didn't make sense. There were security cameras all over the warehouse, and I checked them whenever I heard something. Nothing. I was alone. But those footsteps, they were real. I know they were. One night, after hearing the footsteps yet again, I decided to check the security footage more carefully. I went to the management office and started scrolling through the feed. Everything seemed normal until I got to the footage from the back of the warehouse. There, on the screen, I saw it. A figure. It was faint, almost like a blur, but it was there, moving between the rows of shelves, just like I'd seen in the corner of my eye. I paused the footage and stared at the screen. My heart was racing. I couldn't make out any details, just the shape of a person moving too quickly for the camera to focus. That's when I realized I wasn't imagining things. Something or someone was in the warehouse with me. The next night, I almost didn't come to work. I'd been feeling on edge for weeks, but I couldn't afford to miss a shift. Rent was due, and I needed the paycheck. So I clocked in, grabbed my clipboard, and got to work, trying to ignore the pit of dread in my stomach. Everything was fine for the first couple of hours, quiet, just like it always was. But around midnight, things started to go wrong. I was stacking boxes in one of the far aisles when I heard a crash from the front of the warehouse. My heart jumped into my throat as I grabbed my flashlight and hurried toward the sound. When I got there, I found a pallet of boxes scattered across the floor. It looked like someone had shoved them over. I checked the security feed again, but the footage was useless, just static. That had never happened before. I felt my stomach twist with unease as I tried to figure out what to do. Was someone messing with me, or was it something else? Before I could make a decision, the lights flickered. Once, twice, then went out completely. I was plunged into darkness, the only light coming from the faint beam of my flashlight. That's when I heard it. The footsteps. But this time, they weren't far away. They were close. Too close. I stood there, frozen, listening as the footsteps grew louder, closer. My flashlight shook in my hand as I slowly turned around, shining the beam down the aisle. And that's when I saw it. A figure, standing at the far end of the aisle. It was tall, its face obscured by shadows, but I could see the faint outline of a person. They were just standing there. I could feel my heart thudding against my ribs as I tried to process what I was seeing. "Who are you?" I called out, my voice trembling. "What do you want?" The figure didn't respond. I took a step back, my hands shaking as I tried to keep the flashlight steady. The figure didn't move, but I could feel its gaze on me, cold and unrelenting. And then, without warning, it started moving toward me. I didn't wait to see what would happen next. I turned and ran, sprinting down the aisle as fast as I could. I could hear the footsteps behind me, echoing off the walls. I darted through the maze of shelves, trying to find a way out. The warehouse felt like a labyrinth, the rows of boxes stretching out endlessly in every direction. I could hear the figure gaining on me, its footsteps growing louder with each passing second. Finally, I reached the loading dock. I slammed my hand against the emergency door release. With a loud beep, the door swung open. I stumbled outside, gasping for breath, and turned to look behind me. The figure was gone. The warehouse was silence once more, as if nothing had happened. I stood there, trembling, trying to catch my breath. My mind raced with questions, but I didn't have any answers. I didn't know who or what that figure was, but I knew one thing for sure. I was never going back in there again. I quit the next day. The warehouse was haunted or cursed or something. I didn't care. All I knew was that whatever had been in there with me that night wasn't human. I don't know what I saw that night, and I don't want to know.